We received a question from a customer on how to repair the hole in plaster when an electrical box is removed. Today, that's what we're going to do here. First thing to do in any repair is to assess the conditions. If you look here, this seems pretty solid, this seems pretty loose. The reason this is solid on this side is you can look in the hole and you can see the framing right here. So the plaster and lath on this side is firmly attached to the framing. This side is not. This lath is at least this far from support. So it's just flopping in the air. So you really need to address that issue. Now I'm going to drill the holes so we can inject the conditioner and adhesive. It looks like on this side of the hole that on this piece of framing, the lath split that framing, and when they cut this hole out, it took that little piece of lath out. So that's not there. If you look here, you can see a little bit of patching material. So I'm going to drill over here. Now, remember, you look at this, it's 1/4 inch here, inch and 3/8 here, 1 1/4 inch. What that means is you have an 80% chance of hitting wood every time you drill through the plaster. Here we go, right here, about 1.5 inches away. You can see where that's loose. Okay, now we're going to use that to reattach the plaster to the lath. Because this is a hole, we can see the lath so we know exactly where to drill. And we're going to do the same over here. Remember, you got this patching material here, so I'm going to drill right here. Okay? Now what happens is you have to remember, as you drill through the plaster, there's going to be a little airspace. You see the little airspace between the plaster and lath. That's going to cause the drill bit to hop just a little bit. Okay? One of the most important cosmetic issues with doing this whole repair is filling in the patch. And because this has no wood lath here, the easiest thing to do is to go down to your hardware store, pick up a piece of 1/4 inch hardware cloth and custom cut it to this size. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do is cut this to the right size. And I'm going to pressure fit it in there. Okay, I cut this so all these little pieces will act as barbs to hold the hardware cloth in place once we get it cut to the correct size. Okay, that's cut just slightly larger than the hole, and this makes it ideal for pressure fitting it. I'm straightening these little tines out so we get a much tighter fit. Next thing we do is to make a groove to fit the hardware cloth into around the edge of the plaster. So we'll take this. Looks like we have enough space for it to go in already. There we go. Now we'll proceed with the adhesive work. First thing you do in this plaster repair is after we drill the holes, then we inject the conditioner. The conditioner consolidates the dirt and dust within the plaster lath cavity. Okay, now that's done, we want to spray the edge of the raw plaster here to consolidate out all the dust and consolidate the dust on the lath itself. Next step is injecting the adhesive. First you have to determine the depth. Cut the tip off, nest it in the hole firmly, squeeze gently until you can see coming around the edge of the hole there. Okay, next hole, watch carefully for the adhesive. You can see the lath moving a little bit, and there you can see the adhesive. Okay, you can just see it coming out. See what this looks like from the back? See how this is actually coming out and forming a new key. This adhesive is built to be flexible, so it'll move with your building. So the next step is just to clean up. It's with water and an old rag, it just wipes right up, right away. Now, because these laths were so loose, I'm going to drop clamps in there to make sure that those firm up really nicely. When you put these clamps in, you don't want to clamp it down really hard. You want to clamp it down into soft contact because you don't want to squeeze out the adhesive. Again, the same thing. See how that lath is moving? See how it's coming back? Soft contact. Now these are the only 3 laths that were loose enough that needed to be clamped. Up here, you can see, you squeeze out. The amount of adhesive that comes out that hole is directly related to how far away the plaster is from the lath. So this is nice and tight. The adhesive will take that up and be good as gold tomorrow. Again, wipe up your excess adhesive with a wet cloth. The first step in mixing the plaster is to put water in the bucket, about the amount you're going to need, and then add the powder to that. Always reserve a little bit of powder because you might need to adjust your mix. You can see how that's a soupy mess now with lumps in it. And we're starting to thicken up a little bit. The ideal consistency is the consistency of peanut butter. Modern day or current patching plasters out there are far too hard to be compatible with old plaster. See, you look at that, this is still too loose. We need to still add some more plaster to this. See how that's a nice thick paste? That's the consistency you want your patching plaster. Now we're going to, because this is such a small hole, we're going to fill the whole thing completely right now. You want to press hard enough to have the plaster come through that hardware cloth, attaching to it all the way around. You can see where I applied a little too much plaster and kept pushing it through, so it developed these long keys. But that's not a problem. When this hardens, it'll hold it that much better. So now we wait for an hour and a half, 2 hours for this patching plaster to set, and then we'll top it off with regular joint compound. This does not need to be sanded. I'll just scrape it down, scrape it smooth, and it'll be good to go. The first step was to stabilize the plaster around it. The next step was to infill it. So there isn't a hole there, so we're dealing with a cosmetic issue. So after we put the plaster in, we just take a knife over it. We've stabilized the plaster with the adhesive, so it's a plaster that exists is firmly attached to the lath. Now that the structural aspects are all dealt with, we're just going to put on a little joint compound to fill in the holes and make it look like what it's supposed to look like, a smooth, flat wall. You may need to put multiple layers of this on. The thing about joint compound is it's easy to sand it off if you put too much on. Thanks for watching. Please leave your comments and questions below. If you have any problems you'd like a solution to, why don't you let me know, and maybe we'll pick them for the next video. Thanks.